afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Take Courage 143. I'm your host, Andrea Richmond, and today we bring you episode 4, Circles of Courage, Navigating Cancer with Community Support. My journey, like many of yours, traverses through landscapes marked by both profound despair and incredible resilience. 16 months apart, 2 of my 3 daughters were diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Navigating the grief and uncertainty that ensues when you learn someone you love has cancer is a terrain that I am too familiar with. Both of my daughters have emerged as survivors, each day symbolizing a testament of their strength and the support that encircled our family. During the most overwhelming and trying times, my solace was found within the immediate circle of my family and close friends. I leaned heavily on my mother and mother-in-law, and at points during our journey, we traded off weeks. They traded off weeks living in our home with my husband, our children, and me full time. However, there was an aspect of the support I wish I had been part of. It had been part of our journey from the beginning, and that's the communal understanding and solidarity of a support group for caregivers. It was only recently that I discovered these local groups and realized the immense value they hold in providing perspective, empathy, and shared strength. In today's episode, Circles of Courage, we dedicate time to understanding the significance of seeking and finding support outside our immediate circles. In our conversation today with my guest here, I hope you will see that support groups serve not only as a beacon of hope, but also as a collective witness of our experiences, offering a space where laughter and sorrow exist side by side, lightening the burden of our hearts. And possibly these groups are more than just a gathering, but serve as a place of reflection and provide a place to discover an inner strength amidst the adversities that cancer brings. So let this episode be a reminder for those of you who are survivors, those of you who are currently facing cancer head on, caregivers, or anyone who has lost a loved one to cancer. You are not alone. There is immense power in shared experiences, listening to one another, and in coming together to build a collective courage. Let's welcome Susan Herward. I'm saying that correctly, right? Okay. To the studio today. She's been a registered nurse for 43 years. Incredible. That's counting. Amazing. She has a BSN, and for the majority of her career has specialized in hematology, oncology in various capacities. So for 11 years, she was a coordinator of the stem cell transplant unit at UPMC Shadyside Hospital. As of 2013, Susan works casual status as a discharge planner nurse at UPMC Shadyside. Currently, and the reason she's here today on Take Courage 143 is she is a volunteer facilitator for the leukemia support group at the Erie Cancer Wellness Center here locally in Erie, Pennsylvania. She has learned and been privileged to share many profound experiences with both professionals providing treatment and care to patients receiving treatment and care. So I'm going to start by asking, Susan and I met at one of my book signings out in Northeast, and she happened to just come through the door. Her and her husband were meandering through Northeast and stumbled upon Tia's bookstore. Shout out to Tia's bookstore. Kara too. Yeah, and Kara. And they walked in, and her husband came over to the to my little spot there that I was sitting and picked up the book that is called Love Beyond Scope, which is written by me, and it tells more about our journey with our 2 kids with cancer. But from there, it was like, wow, the lady who coordinates the Leukemia and Lymphoma Support Group in Erie, Pennsylvania, just came by the bookstore and serendipitously we met, and here we are today. And so today we are going to discuss her role at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society support group that happens on Wednesdays every tonight, the last Wednesday of the month, right?
Correct.
And what time is that meeting?
5:30 to 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30. So anybody who's locally here in Erie, Pennsylvania, hasn't checked out the group, if you go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society website, you can find the support group. And I believe you have to pre-register.
You do.
Okay.
Right. We have a whole email system that goes right to
okay.
They
and
take you right where you need to be.
Nationally, do these also exist in other states?
Yes.
Okay.
Very
so
much.
If anybody's
Leukemia Lymphoma is an enormous organization, and it is pretty much, it's everywhere.
Okay. So they could find, anybody that's listening in the US could find a Leukemia and Lymphoma support group. So
and so much resource. They have access to so many resources. If they don't have it, they find a way to get it for you. They have people, they really don't miss.
Awesome.
Much. They just
fantastic.
It is.
So can you share with us how you became involved with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and what inspired you to lead the support group here at Erie Cancer Wellness Center? And I'm going to move your mic in because we want to make sure we can hear you.
I'll project so they can hear me.
Okay, good.
First of all, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity
to
have a microphone.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yes. It's one of my best days. How I became involved was through very lucky, a lot of very serendipitous things, just like you and I meeting, similar for this too. My neighbor, a mutual friend of Sarah Humphrey at the Erie Cancer Wellness Center,
okay,
which has been open. I think they're going into their third year, but it was 2 years then. Asked if I would be interested in doing volunteer work there and would I like to meet with her. And of course I said yes. And very similar to you and I, just so much to talk about, so much in common. She's been an oncology nurse and built this was her dream, to build a facility like this where cancer patients and survivors, families, everyone can come and all of their services are free.
Right.
Including an enormous wig room, and the wigs are free.
Yeah, respite. And I would love to have her on eventually.
Reiki therapy, yoga classes,
art. Yeah.
It's really, it was for me just to sort of be walking around in there and realizing that.
And that's where you hold the group.
That is where they sponsor the space.
Okay.
Leukemia Lymphoma Society sponsors the group itself.
Amazing.
So a lot of depth, a lot of backup is there.
So when someone,
again, I am very, very lucky to walk in, because all I really have to do is give the space to people and give them information as they need it. Pretty much let them be exactly who they are. This particular group,
okay,
has been meeting for decades.
Really?
And there are people that are original.
Okay.
So you have survivors that are into double-digit years of surviving.
Awesome.
Very important, even for me, with the majority of my career and history has all been acute care. So that's in
you probably
the trenches, people that are at a point where they're not their best and they need help, and it's a different kind of navigation. So that's that contrast, and it's very validating for me personally to see people better and having a life. And even though cancer is part of their life and especially with the hematologic cancers, they never really use the word cure too often.
Right.
Children, I believe they do.
Right.
That's a different, a whole different set of circumstances.
Yeah, it's all dependent on a lot of different
criteria.
Mm-hmm. Right? As I know.
Right. You've heard that.
Right. Yeah. And from your tumor genetics to your age at diagnosis, mm-hmm. to how quickly you go into remission,
all those variables, and they do a formula and then they say, okay, you're cured.
Right. Right. And then, just
the
hopefully,
folks in the group do say that very often. They will correct people. Not you're cured. You're not cured. You're managing.
right.
And even the people that are in that category of they have a diagnosis, but they're not into the full-blown disease. The
Right.
body's kind of taking care of it, more or less. They call those the wait and see people.
Okay.
And they even say, I'll never be cured.
Okay.
I'm just going to be managing. So I think that's good.
It's good that
it's honest in a way that you want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You want to make sure that you don't take risks that you can avoid.
right.
You have that awareness that you live with. So
Exactly.
I respect it.
And these different people at different stages of treatment, and whether they're newly diagnosed or they're in treatment or they're surviving 1 year, 10 year, do they all meet at this group?
They do. And I'd say we've had anywhere from like 13 people show up.
Okay.
And I've had around the holiday stuff and winter, the least I've ever had would be 4, and I would be the 5th person.
Okay.
So it's still enough. I have had some very brief, just actually being a covering for somebody that could not attend and facilitate a group in the hospital.
Okay.
And the most I would get, 6 would be a lot of people.
6 would be a lot.
Hospital, there's a lot of support around it. I don't
Right.
think people think of coming to a hospital necessarily.
The goal, of this podcast is really to encourage people to become involved in those groups, because I just recently was a training facilitator for a group, and a light bulb went off in my head, because I was like, I didn't go to these groups while I was a caregiver.
Oh, really?
And so that's what I would like my audience to take away to a certain degree. Like, if you're a caregiver, right? Because there are caregivers that come to this group as well, right?
Yes, there are couples.
Okay.
Sometimes the caregiver will come and the patient doesn't come.
Yeah.
But it all really does work.
Right.
It really is. They are, and again, I don't have much to compare it to that's not acute care.
Okay.
But for me, my observation is this is a magical thing that they have going in this group with these, and there are few people, I'd say about two or three, that they very much, two especially, that take very much responsibility of making sure when new people come that they know what is available. They have this is what leukemia and lymphoma can do. So make this phone call. Here's this 800 number. I don't even have to do that. That's how good they are.
Right. The support,
they're so into their
intermixing of different roles, right? In what they're playing in the lives of, whether they have the cancer or they're a caregiver or they're a survivor. They can be like a beacon of hope for people, or they can, if
like
they're in treatment, they're helping them find resources, right? And getting them to that group is important.
And I love that, because when I have a new person, I am almost excited, even though this sounds very, very,
you don't get excited.
I do. I'm trying hard to contain my excitement right now. When the new person comes, typically they're a typical new person, I would say, is still in a fear mode, and they've typically been trying to cope by themselves for a little while, and I always have that feeling somebody is saying to them, you need to get into a support group. I know. I
can testify for myself that I spent way too many years. And my brother told me, well, the fact that you're angry shows that you're afraid, because I guess fear and anger walk hand in hand.
Yes.
And, I think there were times where my family was like, you really need to find someone else to talk to.
Right. And it's almost as though it's the too close factor, I think, from family and friends and everybody said. And the good news about it is you need that too.
Right.
Because sometimes you just need somebody to fight with.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
your daily, right?
right. If your mother's going to tell you, to clean your room and then you get to snap
Yeah.
and get that out of the
These
way.
dishes have been sitting here
You don't,
and no one's touching them.
right. You don't get to do that. When you come to support group, you learn a little more if you're
Well,
willing, I guess.
you're
If you're a little more disciplined, you don't really haul off, and you're going to listen with a different ear, I guess
in
is the
your,
best way to say that.
I can imagine that
Right.
you're removed from the stress and the space, right, where you live daily.
Yes. All
You're
that
coming
comfort,
into
right.
a new environment, right? You're with people who end
You don't
up
know.
don't know it. Yeah, right. Don't
You
know.
really basically don't know. You're in a room with 12 people you don't know.
Don't
And-
know, but you know they have a similar
Right.
experience, and you know that you really, I can imagine that if I was speaking at one of those groups, you can't say much that the next person next to you hasn't, the person next to you hasn't.
They don't have that go-to that you do with your mother.
Right. Right.
Your mother's gonna get it, the full facial.
Right.
You don't know, you don't understand you.
But you might try to
ridiculous
think,
because she's your mother.
right. And you might try to
Suffering with you.
think like,
Right.
you might try to think a little bit about what others are saying and how you could apply some of their insight, right?
It's all, and I'll throw this word out that everybody likes to use. It's boundary stuff.
Boundary, yeah.
It's the social boundary that you walk around with. It's the boundary that you set with children. It's the boundary even with strangers that you have some responsibility to conduct.
But at the
some
same time, you can let
communication.
loose a little bit, right? Where
So you typically get this person, and I typically know somebody new is coming, and I might know of a little bit, not much. Somebody will say, well, she had this and he's struggling with that, or whatever it may be. And it doesn't really matter.
right.
So my favorite part, though, the part where I do get excited, I know they're going to come in and they're going to get settled, and we'll say all the niceties and we start the group. And I don't, because I want so much everything to be this group, because it's been run by them. They've known each other for a long time. They have all their habits. I let them direct pretty much. I'm not a heavy hand.
Okay.
I mean, I really take the facilitate word pretty seriously, because I don't want to, and I'm a talker. So,
right.
But the new person comes and we sit around, and I can't wait till the part where we get to, and the go around the room was something I always hated in my professional career. Go around the room, tell everybody who you are, what you do. It takes forever, and it's just very boring. But in this instance, I tell the group, the habit is, say your name, say your disease, and how long you've survived. And about when we do that, I let the person tell their story. What do you, why are you here? What do you want to, what do you want us to know? Kind of talk.
Right.
And they say their disease, they say how long they've been diagnosed, and we go from there. And then it's everybody's turn. And when the survivors are talking in the circle, you can physically watch people when they hear 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. And especially if I know, I try to set this up, but often I don't. Somebody with their diagnosis, I have, B-cell lymphoma, and they say something like 6 years, 5 years. I haven't had treatment for 2 years. The actual, it's like the first time it would occur. Their
body language changes.
It does. You can almost see that start to happen, because I think until you get to that point, you have to get the new person, you have to get there as quickly as possible so they can talk.
Right. Right.
So that they're
the hope in the room, right?
You have to, like,
they inject the hope,
throw it at them.
The joy.
I get, can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Well,
even though they hate, and I do too, but I have a new plan. Now I got these paddle signs. They're dry erase boards, and they're going to write, and everyone's just going to hold them up. And we'll
so
cut to
you
the
make
chase
sure
that
that everybody communicates with the group. That is awesome.
Right. And it's like I said, we're modifying the go around the room, because sometimes it gets a little.
Well, you can take, like,
intense.
I mean, as we all know, I mean, this is where like the grim and the sorrow meet with like the joy and the hope, right?
Right.
And it can
And I can't
happen
wait to
in
get
one,
there.
and it can happen in one
Yes.
single room,
It does.
and in 1 hour is 1 hour's time. And I can only imagine what kind of projection that would put you on for like the rest of the week or the rest of the month, like just to be in that room and feel that
right. And there are people
belonging. I don't.
Right.
Is that a good word?
Right. But people are different, and I find it sometimes they'll be right back. They really got it. But it is difficult. And if you're in treatment or you're doing things or you're having surgeries or what life is happening, I understand.
Right.
But I do, and I try not to hound or chase. Or there one gentleman I knew because he really wasn't feeling well, and I just wanted him to know, get well and come back, because he's somebody that is he's in the real midst of the face down.
And he was trying to kind of dive into a support group in hopes that.
And I'm thinking, you're going to not be, your counts are going to drop after your treatment next week. You shouldn't be out with people. My wheels are.
Yeah, because the nurse.
I still think in acute ways too. Also.
Right, your nursing background keeps people.
And sometimes I have to calm down as well, because I think I have a tendency to express urgency for intervention of certain things.
Yeah. And I understand that completely.
All somebody has to say is, I can't get this doctor on the phone, or because my previous positions were all about getting physicians on board and getting communication to happen and resolving problems that can be, if you have somebody that's nauseated and they need a nausea pill, that's getting done.
Yeah.
That's that kind of. So there have been times where my momentum has jumped out.
Help. I mean, that would be.
They look at you, there's a moment, because moves a little. These are surviving. They're here.
And sometimes like your family that's living with you. I mean, I know like based on what we've been through, like sometimes it took another person coming through the door, whether it was like a sibling or a neighbor, and they would take one look at like one of my kids and be like, she looks a little bit pale today. Have you guys,
right.
When's your next appointment? And, when are you going to go visit?
What you get used to, what you see every day.
Right. And so, I mean, that would be another reason to kind of get out to a support group if you're going through treatment. There's things that other people can see in you that you might not see in yourself, right?
And correct. I mean, absolutely. It's what do they say, nose blind or something?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're just living it every day, and you get kind of used to the paleness.
Absolutely.
You get used to.
I was telling you today when we were talking about hair that some things I don't respond to as quick because
right.
People, right.
Yeah, you get used to the like.
But I think the other part of that I love with this group is, we're hearing a story or somebody's saying, I have this need and it's not being met, and the group will jump in and they'll say, I've had that problem. Here's what you do.
Amazing. That would be the best.
And even if I know while they're saying something, if I know, okay, this gentleman over here, this is classic, and I will say,
and I love
do you remember when that happened? What did you do? I don't know exactly what you did step by step. So that was something for me to learn too, coming from acute care, coming from being in a position where I felt responsible to make something happen. I have to watch myself and make sure that I
when we did our prelim for this podcast today, I love like that there's been times where you've had to kind of step in and say, well, let's go ahead and let's make a call to your doctor right now and see if we can get a hold of him.
Oh, I have done that.
Or her, or, let's call the clinic and see.
Or I'm calling you tomorrow.
Or I'm calling you tomorrow. I mean, what better hand to be held by that actually.
I don't know if that's in every support group or if that's a good thing sometimes. So I still navigate with some of that, of the go hard.
But to know that, like, if they went to that group, if someone did ask, surely there would be someone that would have some kind of input. Maybe, it might be just call your doctor. At least they could give that initial like prompt, even if it wasn't dialing the phone up right away and saying like, we're going to, hey, listen, they're not closed yet. We're going to call right now. Or
And sometimes you don't want to frighten people.
right.
They will, somebody may describe something where I think I feel the sense of urgency. And again, because I come from a different place.
Right.
So it's those are probably more.
I appreciate a sense of urgency.
Oh man. Nobody. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
there's, know what I always said
do.
when we were going through?
Prevent. It's the prevent.
Well,
need.
the other thing is if you let it go too far, sometimes like it's harder you end up with a longer hospitalization or like just, I remember I was like, I would rather like go to the ER and have them send me home than not go and have, wake up and have something like horrific happen. And I don't want to scare anybody, but like,
no, but I can tell you for me, I don't want to go to the ER, and I have fought with family. I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then I've been told.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing because I'm bossy when I'm this, because it's not me. So I'm projecting all that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And, everybody has their own choices to make, but
nurses, terrible patients,
showing up
right.
in the group. So, are there activities that you guys do in this support group that's, maybe outside of like them thinking about their disease or diagnosis, or like that helps them kind of get their mind off like
we have not, and the
life,
other thing I was going to say, I'm coming in at post-COVID, so they were doing Zoom support group for a couple of years.
Okay.
And even before that, they were having some issues with consistent facilitators, and then Leukemia and Lymphoma, the actual territory rep was doing their groups for them.
Okay.
So, that's very high level, and that's so great to know that support is out there, because that comes with much.
Okay.
So, activity wise, they do a picnic in the summer.
Okay.
So that's the big activity. There used to be the Light the Night walk in Erie. That doesn't happen from what I understand anymore. I don't know how they still do it in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And there was some traveling. So there was that used to be a thing. So I feel like now I've got the 1 year anniversary under my belt.
Okay.
I'm looking at what should we do as a group? Like,
I remember Lauren going to a Light the Night.
Great. Oh, they were great.
On the baseball field.
I used to go to them when I worked at when I was working.
Maybe they'll bring that back after COVID.
I think it was some fun.
That would be fun, right?
And the thing
and different color, they had different colored lights for like
the thing
survivors.
I really loved about it was I am anti 5K to 3K. I don't like exercise. So the walking, it's like walk runs around the stadium. That's all it was.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, like
in the dark. So this has me. That says me.
Yeah, that's
right.
I love that. So if you're not, you don't want, and it's people in treatment would go to it, right?
Yeah. Oh,
everybody,
you'd
family supporters had different colors.
It was great.
We got to bring that.
And
Susan, how can we bring that back?
It was the cut loose too, with physicians and nurses. Sometimes you're in this space with these people and bad news days, and there's so it's a tapestry of memories.
That would be so fun to.
But it was. I always thought it was great to have that specific thing. So with this group, I started to do some small things to see what because people are all over the place, and I read some poetry. I brought some recorded poetry. Well, they loved it.
Okay, so the simpler things where you can just do it right in the room.
I say, listen, I like to that this, too. And they listen. And I brought my son, who is a singer-songwriter. We talked about this for a while before we did it. I said, you're sure? I threw out some things that we could have entertainment, I guess. And I said, I even have a son that plays the guitar and sings. And they were like, oh, bring him.
Oh,
and it's this. Yeah. That's the other
magic.
The magic of this group too.
The magic.
I want to hold on to them, and then I want to share them with everybody at the same time. So
I get it.
But they are people that are very committed to the joy of life. Whatever in tiny thing, it's a big thing. It's a big happy thing.
So your son came and sang?
So first he came, and we had some new people. So he sat and we did around the room, and so he took all that in, and then he starts to participate. It was sort of, it was beautiful, actually. And
Amazing.
what he had learned, he's done some volunteer work. There were a few times I had him do music, play the guitar and sing Hallelujah for somebody that was getting married in the ICU.
Oh my God.
And it was a moment. It was beautiful. So I know I raised him and I lived with him. He had to hear my stories a lot too. So, but he jumped right in, understood, and it was a love fest. He sang a few songs. Like he was Elvis. They were
amazing.
They want to follow him. They love him. They want him to come back. They want him to go on The Voice.
Oh, yeah. Then they're supporting him and his group.
I was just going to say, they went right into support of him support group.
I love it.
So
I love it. And we, if we
honest.
deny our, people
honest.
that are going through whatever it is they're going through, new diagnosis, in treatment, post-treatment, like to be able to walk into a group that has so many elements of just.
And they answer questions for me.
Life, right? Like,
very, they've surprised me. One of the questions I always have, I ask most people that if I have to deal with them, if they're going to be my patient. Sometimes I've had patients for years in the hospital, coming and going years. How do you cope with, there's this whole thing, you have those days of bad news.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you have back-to-back days of bad news or a week of bad news, or you either get up the next day and see some light. It's so even the waiting part, waiting for news. Those kinds of coping skills, I think you have to be talking to people that are doing it or have done it.
Yeah.
And especially these folks that do it repeat. It is such a huge part of cancer treatment.
Yeah.
Because it's managing a
and
job.
Really only
it's a full-time job to manage. I do feel that way.
Oh, I know.
And I was never every day.
I was never a calendar girl.
Right.
And I wasn't through my girls' treatment. I had my mother that had the calendar.
Right.
But now I'm a calendar girl.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like you have to
don't have it.
Yeah, right. And because there are so many appointments and there is so many different elements of treatment.
There are so many different ways that people cope with that. There are people that do maybe a specific thing. They hike or do a sport, or they very much physically challenge themselves to feel that sense of control.
Right.
There are people that are very able to let things go.
Right.
And it's not always the people that you expect. You think, no, this guy, he just tucks it away. He's got a big compartment and he can handle.
Right.
But that's not always true.
I know. You have to learn from those around you, right? Like as you're walking in that
it's
journey.
So valuable. That I think is the biggest bang for your buck of a support group.
Seeing
that the creativity.
Yes.
I think that it demands a level of creativity of how to cope. Then fill in the blank with whatever that
because,
is.
you do, let's face it, we don't get to acceptance. Like it's a long,
or it's brief. And then there are people that have terror, the terror they feel at the thought of acceptance because they're afraid of this. I accept. And then the bad news comes and I'm not ready.
Right.
But I am like, are you really ready?
Better to just tolerate is what I've learned in one of the groups that I went to, that we have to tolerate the path to a level and cope. Coping is the biggest word, right?
Or for me, the hardest thing that I don't like cliches. I get upset. But I want somebody to be thinking about at the same time, there are cliches that I understand better than I used to.
Yeah.
Before. And I actually learned this cliche from I have a dear friend whose son had a heart transplant.
Okay.
And she one day, out of the clear blue, we were on the phone and, how are you doing? And then she said, I've really come to understand what it means to live in the moment, because I think about the fact that he is here now and I am here now, and here we are.
Yeah, because planning is, as much as we talk about calendars, some things can be planned during treatment, but sometimes, you know,
And all
low
these things
low
are
blood
happening simultaneously.
low blood counts can't be planned. Like,
And you have small children. Your
Right.
children were young. Then the other one is like, mommy,
right.
play Monopoly with me. And you're like, what? You're
Yeah,
far apart.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that, again, I don't know how people, now that I've sort of immersed myself in this practice, let's say, how do people do it without support from
Right.
many people? And I think people build their support
around them.
right. But this is there's a specific time and place and people, and I can go and do this for an hour.
And I
and
just,
count on it. Right.
I cannot emphasize like how I came to that realization when I just went to become a facilitator. Like I did, and I was like, I could have been doing this like all along for
Right.
1 hour a month, and somebody
Right.
would have been able to give me some feedback outside of my immediate circle, my immediate world. Like I was
do you
listening.
feel like you could go before you were mentally ready to go? There is something that people, I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't want people in my business. There is that factor. I think when somebody is giving you advice in a situation that you can't control, that your fight can come.
But
Yeah.
part of me thinks like
True.
when you talk about this group that you're leading right now, had I seen like other people or other children that were surviving
Yes.
leukemia,
Yeah, you would have felt that.
And I just think it would have been okay. We're gonna be okay.
It can
like,
happen.
I think I would have maybe been that person that was like, oh, look at them. And I did hear.
I am sure.
Like
At different times.
I mean, I have flip phone, so there wasn't like Facebook advertising.
Correct. That's right. Right. It was a different time already.
And so we do get some of that on social media, but there's nothing better than human eye contact.
Absolutely.
And witnessing the actual person who is either going through treatment and be in that group. Everybody can walk in. They don't necessarily have to share everything. They can listen. And maybe it's just their time to just listen, right?
There's a husband, wife. Am I interrupting? I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I have a husband and wife couple that I have them, but in the group, and the husband is the patient, and the wife is most engaged. Now he's hilarious and very spontaneous, and he's a one-word guy, and he always uses the right word.
The wit that comes from living in the moment.
Yes. But at first, I seeing that, at first you think, well, I got to get him to talk a little more. You start to have all these interventions in your head, right?
Right.
Everything.
So it's a mixed bag,
really
which is really cool. And I hope that our audience will
fortunate.
See, and through our conversation,
come to this group, everybody.
Everybody should come, right?
And then we'll tangent off.
How did I not make it like back in the day?
They could be trainers, support
I love
trainers.
It. You know what? I don't even know if I have my my closing. Oh, yes, I do.
Has it been an hour?
It's been about 40 minutes, which isn't too bad.
Okay, this is good.
We're good. And you've told some amazing stories, and I think we've given a lot of different perspective, which is good. I mean,
is there anything you can think of that people... I'm trying right now to pull from my memory.
I just think like everyone's going to come with their own unique perspective and their unique story, and they're going to be in their own journey of grief, or whether they're finding joy or they're starting to find some joy. I know you're going to meet them right where they're at. That's what I can guarantee you. And you're going to help them in any way that you can. And the group that surrounds whoever shows up is going to interact in a unique way that's going to provide something they can't get by just staying in their homes.
I think they do like that. When I say, I was a nurse, and the instant trust, and that this happens when you tell anyone you're a nurse. I can tell you, a teacher, people, they understand,
right?
They want to they have questions, and then they have advice, and
yeah,
it gets things. It does move things without having, just identifying myself. I know I can count on.
Yeah.
That it's the trust comes a little bit easier.
When you're surrounded by professionals, essentially, right?
And even if you go to,
or at least led by a professional,
right? But I really don't. I've done no training to be a facilitator. I have friends I have social work friends that are great, and they know the techniques, and they know the names for the techniques.
Yeah.
And I don't. And sometimes I think, they'd be better.
I think you
would be better because I'm just talking.
You just live it. I love it.
But I think that, what was I going to say something about? And again, it's just identifying yourself, and then people having a certain behavior,
right?
that you've seen,
and providing a welcome environment. I think at the end of the day, if everyone comes in feeling welcomed and feeling,
I know what I was going to say.
Go for it.
Here goes the great interrupter. It's the part where you are in a support group, typically in an area where Erie people know one another, and it's a community.
Right.
It's a little smaller than Pittsburgh.
Thought about that. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So that there is so much. I know that person, right? And the other really great thing about that here, they even know, I went to Cleveland for this treatment, or there are a few other hospitals they name I can't think of right now, or Pittsburgh. You get a lot of Pittsburgh, and they share doctor stories, or they share
another aspect of attending a group, and share who's treating them, right?
That's just conversation that goes on, or say, hey, I went to Dr. Smith's office today, and I saw his secretary. She said she lives next door to you. I mean, it's
amazing,
which is more of a comfort zone if you're going to be in a support group and you're being treated and it's your home. And there's that part of it.
So for our Erie listeners, you got to tell them where they go once again, and tell them what time and what day. And
Erie Cancer Wellness Center.
You can tell them where.
Erie Cancer Wellness Center is. Do I have the address? I want to say 15th Street.
15th and Pittsburgh Avenue.
Yes.
Right behind Big Lots, right?
Right behind Big Lots. That's right.
And then it's the last Wednesday of the month.
Is Leukemia and Lymphoma.
Okay.
There are other support groups.
There are other support groups. So you could if you're local, you could contact the Erie Cancer Wellness Center for other groups that exist there that are outside of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society realm.
You can call them for anything.
Truly.
They will have it.
Yes.
They will find a way to get you to what you need.
I'll need to have Sarah or Kim on here next.
Definitely.
Next month.
They're gonna.
So as we draw this episode to a close, I hope that our listeners have garnered some information from our conversation here with Susan. And I just want to thank you, Susan, for sharing your invaluable insight and lighthearted warmth that you bring to every conversation. We've had multiple conversations together. Your incredible depth of knowledge as a transplant nurse, coupled with your exceptional leadership as a support group facilitator, is truly a pillar of strength and guidance for many navigating the unknowns on their journey of cancer. Right?
That's a gush. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're amazing.
Thank you for being my friend.
You're amazing. Your approach embodies both love and light, and touches the lives of countless individuals who find themselves suddenly entrenched, right? We've talked about this, in the complexities of cancer, from initial shock and grief to the long road of treatment and the profound changes that follow all of us, right? And under your stewardship, the support group is a sanctuary of hope, offering those affected by cancer not just a chance to cope, but an opportunity to transform and heal. So today is a reminder that while cancer might come into our lives uninvited, we never planned for it, do we?
Yeah.
Through fate, the journey through and beyond can be one of personal growth and community support. Before we part ways, let's take a moment to offer a short prayer for all those with blood cancers or other critical illnesses along with their caregivers. Heavenly Father, we come before you today seeking strength, comfort, and healing for all those battling blood cancers and other critical illnesses. Embrace them with your love and grant them the courage to face each day with hope. Provide their caregivers with the endurance, compassion, and wisdom needed to support and nourish their loved ones on this challenging journey. We ask for guidance in moments of uncertainty, for peace in times of turmoil, and for laughter in midst of sorrow. May the circles of support that surround each individual be a source of light, offering a pathway to healing and resilience. Together, let us find solace in knowing that we do not walk this path alone, but are joined in a communal embrace of understanding and shared strength. Amen. Susan's work extends far beyond the confines of our discussion today. She is a brilliant force in the real-world battle against cancer, helping to illuminate the path forward for so many. To all our listeners, whether you're fighting a personal battle against cancer, supporting a loved one, or simply here to understand more about this journey, remember the transformation and healing are possible. Joining a group, even just once a month, can be the first step toward a newfound sense of community and personal renewal. Thank you all for joining us in today's episode of Take Courage. Your stories, your battles, and your triumph continue to inspire us all. For now, take courage. I love you. And we can hit